Welcome to this video where we talk about all things video games. In this video, I'll be reviewing Bayonetta 1 for Nintendo Switch. Bayonetta was originally released back in 2009 on the Xbox 360 and PS3 to a rather positive reception, unless you're counting the PS3 version. The game is lauded for its high-octane action gameplay, directed by the legendary Hideki Kamiya, the original director behind the first Devil May Cry game. Now I'll just say I don't really have a lot of action game experience. The amount of hack and slash game I played can probably be counted all in one hand, but Bayonetta is really the cream of the crop out of every action game I ever played. It's worth noting that this is a mature game with lots of sexual innuendos littered everywhere, chief among them being Bayonetta, which is often depicted in a hyper-sexualized way. The design of Bayonetta is often at the center of controversy, as its over-sexualized design can rub some people the wrong way. Personally, I really like Bayonetta as a character. She's funny, confident and flamboyant. And a lot of that personality stems from the fact that she's very comfortable in her own skin and her own sexuality. And her take no prisoners approach makes her one of the most distinct and memorable female protagonists I've ever played. And this aspect really gels with the whole tone of the game really well. It isn't a game that takes anything too seriously. It's a game that constantly ones up itself by creating more and more outrageous and zany spectacles one after the other. As such, the plot can kind of feel a little bit uneven at times. Some parts of the plot can be hard to follow, and the plot overall feels like an afterthought. And personally, I wouldn't have wanted it any other way. I can't imagine if they tried to make a serious story out of this nonsensical cast of characters and events. The main reason that made Bayonetta so goddamn fun has to do with its gameplay. At the heart of its gameplay is the immaculate combat system. Bayonetta can control two forms of weapon, one that is used on her hands, the other strapped to her legs. This allows for a dizzying amount of different combos and playstyle, as you unlock more weapons and acquire more movesets from the shop. It is such a rewarding battle system. The more you play, the better you get to understanding its combos and weapons and the system. After every wave of enemies and chapter, you are scored according to how well you have performed. This incentivizes multiple playthrough as you try to get the best award possible. The one mechanic that really ties the battle system together is switch time. If one was to press the dodge button at the last possible moment, which time will trigger, where time will slow down to a crawl for all the enemies, granting you time to completely wreck them with a nasty combination. This mechanic is so fun. It never gets boring trying to time when exactly the enemy will strike. It is paramount to get used to this system, as in some parts of the game the enemies rarely give you any meaningful openings, and some battles absolutely require it to be. I also love the pacing of the gameplay. Amidst all the action-packed sequences, you do get to do some exploring and light puzzle solving. It managed to strike a really good balance, retaining the high moment-to-moment gameplay, which is something I can't exactly say about the other action games I played. One thing that I would like to mention is that this game can get really hard at times. The difficulty is pretty tough for me even just at normal. Multiple deaths is often commonplace in just a single chapter. Not to mention some of these deaths come from horribly placed quick time events. Failing some of these quick time events can result in instant death, which just doesn't feel that fair at times. At the end of the day, what you get from this gameplay is a fast, high-octane, relentless game that really makes you feel like a powerful Umbral Witch. Let's talk about the presentation of this game. I played the Nintendo Switch digital version of the game that comes with Bayonetta 2. As such, the graphic tops are at only 720p 60fps. The art style is definitely very distinct from many other games, the standout being really the enemy design. Much of the enemies you get to face are angels, and the angels portrayed in Bayonetta are so much more different from other media depiction of these mythical beings, which really lends Bayonetta a really unique art style overall. Moreover, the animations deserves praise as well. Attacks are very fluid and responsive, conveying a great sense of power. Other animations such as Bayonetta flamboyant antics really adds to the whole stylish nature of the game. My only major gripe with the art style is the color range. It looks very dark. All these colors makes the graphic looks a little bit washed and down in my eyes. The Switch version generally plays very smoothly in dock mode, with not a lot of noticeable slowdowns. Since the native resolution is only 720p, in handout mode the game looks insanely good. However, I do find the slowdowns are a lot more noticeable and more often in handheld mode. The audio aspect is definitely the best part about the presentation for me. Firstly, the soundtrack is a treat to listen to. I've heard a few of these tracks from playing Super Smash Bros before, so I already know that the soundtrack is gonna be sick, but I didn't know it works so well in the game. Most of my favourite tracks from the game utilize a lot of jazz, and it works so incredibly well in this game. Many of the battle tracks makes fighting so much more epic, which is something I can't say about Devil May Cry 4, which I actually got really tired of listening to the same battle theme. Secondly, I have to praise the sound effects. Every bullet, every attack, every munching sound effect felt so satisfying to listen to. One of my favourite sound effect is the distortion effect when you trigger Witch Time. And lastly, I have to talk about how great the voice acting is, especially Bayonetta voice direction. It's so incredibly good. Bayonetta voice actor really nailed the role perfectly. I love the posh sounding delivery, giving Bayonetta so much sass and character.
If I was your child, I'd be an awfully ugly witch, wouldn't I? Yours is a face only a mother could love.
Since this is a Switch version, there are certainly some features not found in other versions. Mainly the Nintendo costumes are included, where Bayonetta can dress up as Peach, Daisy, Samus or Link. Each costume adds a little gameplay variety to the mix, in some cases merely changing some visuals and audio flair. Also in the Switch version, there's also a touch input way to play through the game. I generally don't really care for it that much, however I'm glad this is an option, as having better accessibility in games can help certain players play through the game easier. I did find this control very useful during quick time events where you have to mash the buttons. To summarize, Bayonetta has one of the best combat systems in any action game I played, featuring deep mechanics and combos that rewards mastery and multiple playthroughs. Shout out goes to the witch time mechanic which never gets old. Bayonetta features a very unique art style, standout being enemy and character design, with great animations worked all around. The audio presentation is very high quality with an awesome soundtrack, satisfying sound effects, and great voice acting. The negatives are poorly placed quick time events, difficulty can feel kind of hard, and a dark coloured palette. Overall, I'm giving Bayonetta a 9 out of 10. Personally, I'm not a super big fan of action hack and slash games, but Bayonetta really opened my eyes to this type of games. Bayonetta is an incredibly stylish game with over-the-top set pieces and fun gameplay that really never lets out all the way to the finale and beyond. I can safely say Bayonetta is my personal favourite action game ever. If you have not picked up this game, I would recommend the Switch, PC and the Vanquish ports of this game. It's offered on sale on Steam for just $5, definitely worth the purchase there. Alright, I'll be taking a break from the Bayonetta franchise for a while. I'll definitely be playing through Bayo 2 somewhere in the future, so if you want to hear my opinions on that game, press the subscribe button. And to see me recap my gaming year in 2020, as well as my game of the year, click here. So long guys, so long.